and welcome to an episode of Ben's Junk that truly sucks. Mold, that is, off of old videotapes to try and help restore them to some level of playability. Anyway, I suppose I should just go ahead and address the 800-pound gorilla in the room for the real die-hard archive viewers, and that is, yes, this is going to be the second time that I have reviewed this device, the VHS's Life mold cleaning rig. And the original version remains the only video that I've ever done in 12 years of making archive where I have just completely pulled it. So here's what happened. Just like 3 or 4 hours after that video went public, I heard from the inventor of this, and he pointed out some mistakes I had made, and admittedly I did take some liberties when I demoed it the first time around. And we ultimately got to talking, and we wound up on the phone for quite a while that night. But he mentioned that he had revised the design of the rig and that maybe we could just swap out the units and I would take a shot at the current model as of my making this. And this is indeed it. Now, having said that, I haven't actually returned the original one yet, just because I wanted to hang on to it just long enough to make this video. And right out of the gate, there should be one very noticeable difference here. Yeah, the posts are just a teeny bit closer together now. And the hubs to place your videotape reels on are now farther apart. That's granted, that's a little more subtle. And otherwise, some stuff I didn't work out the first time around. For example, it's recommended to use 99% isopropyl alcohol with this rig, and I had ordered some, but it just did not show up. It showed up while I was editing, but yeah, I have held on to that, obviously. And it's recommended to use a spray bottle to apply to the cloths there. So I did get some just cheap generic spray bottles, and I did not buy any extra pads, any extra cloths there. So I did get a couple packs of these things, so I've got 200 now. So that should last me a good long time. Otherwise, I'm going to keep this sort of the same as the first time around. The only real difference is, well, the end goal is to clean one moldy VHS tape and one moldy Betamax tape. But just to get myself acquainted with the current model, because I intentionally have not tested it yet, I am going to just put a tape on it that does not need cleaning, this Bad Times special from the public domain VHS candidate pile for a live stream. So yeah, I'm going to start off with this beauty here, just again to try and acquaint myself. And if I really screw something up, it's not like I can't get another copy of this pretty easily. So otherwise, I did not have any moldy VHS tapes on hand, but Tony, the inventor, was kind enough to send me a real beaut. So that could be interesting. And I've still got a whole box kicking around of moldy beta tapes. So we'll do one of those. And I guess the only other thing to do here is for me to take a cut and hook everything up, and we'll, at the very least, do a dry run, as it were. All right, got everything set up here. And let's take the opportunity to go over a couple of just stray thoughts and errors from the first time around. So one problem I had the first time was with the vacuum, and that was my own doing. On the vacuum end of things, I didn't realize that when you install the hose initially, yeah, it comes up through you take the lid off and feed it from the underside, but it does indeed lock. You just got to really pull on it. But the downside to that is that you can't really get it back off. So if you're like me and you want to be able to completely break everything down for storage purposes, because you're just not going to leave this up all the time, you know, you only do a few moldy tapes a year, that is something to keep in mind. And then I had trouble keeping the hose in the back of the original unit, and Tony and I went back and forth on this a little bit, but and he may come back at me in the comments for this, but I still feel like it might just be a quirk of my particular unit, but it just doesn't rest in there at all. This one, it's a lot better. I'm not having any real stability problems this time around. Everything does fit properly this time around, so thumbs up on that front. And one thing I got wrong in the initial test, the little cloths in here. So as it turns out, you're supposed to keep it just slightly below the top of the post, like just not even 1/8 of an inch, and they are supposed to be pulled as taut as possible. And they are indeed, you know, they're squares initially. You fold them in half, hot dog style, twice, and then you put them in here, open, fold sides down, and you can redo them as you go along to get, you know, 3 or 4 uses out of one single cloth. But anyway, given the close quarters here, I don't think I'm going to fit the spray bottle down in there, so I am going to have to take this off just momentarily to get us a little spritz of alcohol. See if I can do this without making a mess and do it on camera. There we go. Of course, it is going to kind of make a bit of a mist elsewhere. So we'll get this back on. There we go. Anyway, let me get my my baggy gloves back on so I can look like a, I don't know, a really wilting, aged cartoon character or something. And another thing I got wrong the first time around was that you're supposed to start the motor and get the tape running a little first, then turn on the fan. So we'll follow the intended instructions here. There we go. So let's get this in gear. Like I said, I'm not going to wear a mask for this initial test. So we got a switch on the front. If it's off to the right, it's to go forward. If it's pointed to the left, it's to go in reverse. So we are going to advance this tape, and then of course we have a little potentiometer on the right to both turn the power on and off and adjust the speed. So we'll kick the switch into forward. We'll turn it on, but not actually run it quite yet. And let's just start off real nice and slow. We'll get that fan going. Now, the first time I did this, I peaked at about 70%. I don't know if I'm going to go quite that fast this time around. This is, 30 to 40% by my reckoning. We'll just let that roll. We'll see what happens. Another tip that I was given was speed is not the name of the game, which I didn't think I was going for speed the first time, but we'll deliberately keep this slow. I am a little worried about friction. I feel like I should have wet the pad a little more. Yeah, we'll peek at that. This is, again, 30 to 40%. Okay, I have not really played with the speed. I made one minor adjustment to slow it down a hair at one point. But we're coming to the end here, and once I see the end truly coming, I'm going to slow this down, way down. And then when it stops, we'll kill the fan. It's looking happy so far. I'm seeing a nice even wind on this. So if this is a success, This is the lube side of the tape. We'll take a pass at the play side of the tape on the way back. Okay. Well, that was a little too much of a slowdown. Come on. There's a little bit of momentum factored into the motor that I can tell. So I really have to watch when the end comes. Okay, hopefully that's a happy speed for the ending. Got it. All right. I'm liking it. Okay, I'll take a cut here. We'll get set up for the rewind, and we'll see how that goes. I'm truly going to have to watch how I'm sitting so this doesn't really become an episode of Ben's junk. Anyway, we're ready to do a rewind here. This is going to be the play side of the tape. Let's go for it. Rewind position. We'll turn on the motor. And we'll just try and get the barest minimum speed there. All right, we'll turn on the fan. All right, we seem to be set at the same zone of, we'll call it 30 to 40% speed here. Just like last time, we'll have to watch it on the end because there does seem to be a certain amount of momentum in the motor that's factoring in. And one thing I should note, when I made this the first time around, some people were commenting that, well, couldn't you clean both sides of the tape at once? Just kind of make a figure eight or something? And or an S pattern would probably be more accurate. And I could have even told you in that episode, no, for one reason, friction. I could see where that would be a big potential problem. So yes, that's why I'm not trying to really get fancy with this and do everything at once. I do worry about tape breakage and stuff if I try and get too fancy with it, and that's something I am carrying over from the first time around. And it stopped by itself. Okay, well, let's give it some juice. Right at the end. Okay, do I need to encourage it? I don't want this thing to start spinning, real quick on me. Yeah, it's almost like you can go too slow with this. There we go. All right, well, I will call that a success, but I've been trying to do the whole slow and steady wins the race sort of deal with this. And I have found that, at least with this tape, that may not have been the greatest idea. I had to obviously encourage movement a little there. But I was able to get it over the finish line. Everything looks good to me. You may have noticed that I took off the other cloth here because as this reel was filling up, it was starting to rub against the tail end of this particular cloth, and I just didn't want that. I didn't want it touching at all, so I just quickly pulled it off. So I guess the name of the game, if there's enough tape on the reel, is to only have one cloth on at a time if you're like I am and you just don't want any extra handling than necessary. All right, well, we'll go ahead and pop these bad boys off. And yeah, real nice even wind. Looks real good. I like it. Okay, let me take a cut here and we'll get down and dirty. Okay, here comes the real acid test. This looks pretty gnarly to me. I am going to do this slightly differently, though. I'm going to finish rewinding this, then we'll do a full forward and rewind pass. But I just want to get this back to some sort of endpoint. And yes, I am masking up for this in case you couldn't tell. Good proper 3M N95, not expired. Yes, these things do expire. And yeah, let's just take a shot at this. Let's see what happens. Rewind mode. Get the motor on. Get it moving slightly. Yeah. Now, I probably should have noted before I started that when you've got a really moldy tape like this, it is going to stick to some degree. And as you may or may not have noticed, I had a tough time getting this started. I had to kind of just persuade it, and eventually it started to let go. But I found that manually advancing does help on a really moldy tape, if only to get things started. So I am, since this is moldy, I'm going to quick clean off this particular hub. I'm going to reset, and then we'll do a full forward pass and a full proper rewind pass at this as well. This could be interesting. This may not be salvageable. This is a really bad tape. But at the same time, I guess you could say this is a true stress test for this thing. Okay, let's truly rock with this. Reverse, we'll just turn on the engine, so to speak, but not any power for starters. I'll get my mask properly on and we'll see what happens. Oh, that was dumb. Forward. There's a mistake there. Well, we made it, and I'm definitely going to have to clean off that hub, the reel rather, and I'm going to wipe down the lid of this thing and just all around do a little cleaning here. But yeah, we survived. I had to persuade things a little again, and we definitely still have some mold, but that's to be expected with something this bad. So yeah, I'm going to take a quick cut here and do a little cleaning, retooling, and resetting, and we'll do the play side of the tape. Before I start the final pass at this tape, you probably noticed I moved the camera around and stuff during that last segment. That was about 20 minutes of getting through this tape. I kept the speed as low as I felt like I could get away with. There were some spots where I had to, just in the name of not having too much tension, speed things up a little. And yeah, we got through it, if nothing else. It's quite a process, but it seems to be doable. So with that, let's do the final pass at this one. Rewind. Yeah. There we go. Okay, well, it survived. Now, it may still look a little moldy. That is actually the plastic, not the tape itself. But I don't know if I can get that off. That may be wear and tear as well. But yeah, hey, we got through it. I had to start persuading again a little at the end there. But yeah, I think we're doing good here. I'm going to give this a little clean off, and I'm going to replace these cloths here after that much mold. I'm just calling those bad at this point. And yeah, I'll swap out the VHS hubs for the Betamax ones, and we'll do a Betamax test, and we'll call it a night. Well, on second thought with that VHS tape, there is still a little white on the tape itself. I don't know if my camera is going to pick it up, but I think this is a candidate for a second cleaning somewhere down the road. Anyway, I've got the Betamax tape hooked up. I changed the hubs and everything. And if you're not familiar, it is just a single screw that attaches those things. It's nothing fancy. And otherwise, we got another partially played tape here, so we're going to have to do, it's going to be easier to fast forward this one and then swap around and do a cleaning on the play side and then redo the lubed side. So, yeah, about the same as before. I did put a new cloth on here. I guess I bought them maybe a little too small. I mean, I got them at a decent size around the post, but I don't have a whole lot of room on the back end to tighten, but I think we'll get by with it. So yeah, let's get into it. Right, back to whole size cloth. Let's just do this. I had to finish this up without the fan because it was causing problems, but it's done. We'll flip it over to the other side and hope we get a clean wind. And boy, look at all that. Definitely need to clean. Okay, final pass. Well, I made it, but I think this is gonna need another pass. But I think we got proof of concept, if nothing else. So a final verdict here, just briefly, on the VHS front. Really liking it. On the beta front, I felt like I really had to fidget with it quite a bit, and I had to ride gently with my finger on the hubs, the tape proper, to keep things from flying off towards the end there. And I did have to readjust the tightness at one point of the beta hubs, at least. So, yeah, for the most part, a winner. Certainly on the VHS front. If you got VHS tapes you need to clean, then yeah, I think this is a winner. But otherwise, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it a night here. I've been at this for far, far, far longer than I thought I'd be. So I'll talk to you again soon.